and gentlemen, we do not think that condemning our citizens to a life of limbo is fair. We do not think, ladies and gentlemen, that creating a society whereby we think it's acceptable to change how a person is acceptable, ladies and gentlemen. We think particularly when you are doing that against the will of the parents. Why, ladies and gentlemen? I'm going to be looking at three things today. We're looking first of all at this issue of the physical problems, about whether or not this will in fact, in the majority of cases, be the best thing we could possibly do for them. We'll look secondly at how this impacts on how people relate to these children and what the best way of protecting these children from the abuses and degradations of the society around them is. And thirdly, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be looking at parents. We're going to be talking about parents. We're talking about the real damage that this proposition does to the way in which parents look after these children. So, let's get on with it, ladies and gentlemen. So first of all, we'll give you lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of reasons, ladies and gentlemen, why it is he thought this would be nice for some problems. Plausible, ladies and gentlemen? I haven't googled this recently. But, ladies and gentlemen, we point out a few things. We'd say, first of all, that we think there are potentially risks of complications. We think particularly when you bear in mind that this is a relatively new procedure. No, thank you. This is a procedure that, as Will himself has said, has only been tried in a dozen or so cases. We think rolling this out nationwide on every child who is born with this kind of disability, no, thank you, which numbers in the thousands, is potentially really dangerous. We think there are serious risks inherent in this model that we just are not able to assess. We think in particular, no thank you, we think there is a serious problem, again, doing this against the will of the parents. We think deciding, ladies and gentlemen, that you are going to apply this on the basis of the assessments of social care workers is potentially really dangerous. We are not convinced, ladies and gentlemen, that the person who decides what should happen to the child should be anyone other than the person who is going to actually look after that child. We'll be going on to that in more detail later in terms of the later care of the child. No, thank you. All I want to do now is point out that we are not convinced that the case in terms of making this child's life happier is as bulletproof as Will claims. No, thank you. So let's talk secondly, ladies and gentlemen, about how people relate to mental disability within societies. What Will basically said was, well, these people are children, so we should make sure that they look like children. Listen, we think that's really problematic. We think saying having a mental illness is like being a child is really dangerous. Sir, we think actually, no, thank you. We think that what this encourages people to do is treat people with mental illnesses as children, always and forever. No, thank you. We think what this does, moreover, is encourage a degradation of personhood on the part of society to these children. We think it says these people are people who aren't really people. Sir. These people, no thank you, are condemned to Neverland. These people are Peter fucking Pan, ladies and gentlemen. We don't think that's acceptable. No thank you. We do not think that that's a good way for society to deal with mental illness. We think that is ducking the issue of mental illness and the responsibilities that go with it.
So, this is not a prop about mental illness. This is a prop about static encephalopathy where the brain stops growing at 4. It's not inaccurate to say that Peter Pan, that's exactly what they are.
But nevertheless, ladies and gentlemen, we don't think it's acceptable for society to say that when you are born different, when you are born strange, that means that we are going to carry out medical procedures, ladies and gentlemen. That means that we are going to stop you from ever being a grown-up. That means we are going to fundamentally alter the course of your development as a human. Ladies and gentlemen, we think that's a horrible thing for society to say. We think in particular it's just a terrible thing to do. No, thank you. So let's talk thirdly and finally, ladies and gentlemen, about parental choice. Because this is something that Will didn't really spend that much time on. And no particularly, ladies and gentlemen. Even if everything he says about the physical benefits is true, even if all the claims he makes about why this is going to be in the child's best interests are right, we think, ladies and gentlemen, nevertheless, there's still a really good case to be made for parental choice. Because we don't think the parental choice is to do with experience, as Will claims. Most people don't know what having a child is going to be like, even having a normal child, ladies and gentlemen. We think in lots of cases, people haven't prepared for it. In lots of cases, people feel unready for it. We think the reason why you entrust the parents with the responsibilities over their child is because they are the one who have to pick up the pieces, ladies and gentlemen. They are the one who are entrusted with looking after the child for years and years and years. No, thank you. We think the problem with this proposition, ladies and gentlemen, is it means that even if the parent doesn't want this, even if the parent isn't comfortable with the idea that they are going to look after a child for their entire life, even if the parent is not able to deal with the notion that the child that they have is never going to grow up, is never going to become the person who looks like them that they wanted to see, ladies and gentlemen, that you should still do it. You should take it away and go against their wishes. Why is that really harmful? We think first of all, ladies and gentlemen, it's really dangerous and really harmful because it affects the way in which the parent is likely to relate to that child. We think what it does is it says, this child is strange to you. This is not someone who you have responsibility over. This is not someone, ladies and gentlemen, who you have full rights over. Go.
Okay, you've said you shouldn't change people because of their sort of illness or condition or whatever. If there was a cure for this condition, would you give them the
We don't think this is a cure, ladies and gentlemen. We think what this does... sorry. Yeah, I guess I would. I don't see why that's relevant to this debate. But moving on, ladies and gentlemen. We think moreover, we think in particular, like the... I've got this written down. I'm doing my fucking best. As I was saying, we think the problem with this proposition is what it does. So, okay, we think the reason why this is really problematic is because we think it's the only fair way to treat parents. Given that these parents are incurring a massive responsibility, given the proposition acknowledge that looking after someone with this condition is really hard and really difficult and will require probably a greater standard of care over a greater number of years than someone who is not born with this condition. We think if you are going to burden them with that kind of responsibility, the least you can do is give them choice. The least you can do, ladies and gentlemen, is let them make decisions about how they want to look after this person. The least you can do, ladies and gentlemen, inform them, at least, that this condition might be easier to look after if they are given the treatment, but that nevertheless, if they feel they are better able to look after their child, if they feel they are better able to identify with their child, given that this child is not given the treatment, then in that circumstance, ladies and gentlemen, we think you should allow the parent to make the choice, because they're the ones who's going to have to look after the child, not the state. So, ladies and gentlemen, what have I demonstrated to you today? I've demonstrated to you first of all. I've demonstrated to you first of all that we think there are plausibly problems with the claim that Will made that this is always and in every case going to be bulletproof, the best physical option. I've demonstrated to you, ladies and gentlemen, that we don't think that this sends out a really worrying and problematic message about how we deal with the mentally subnormal within society, ladies and gentlemen. I think I've demonstrated to you thirdly and finally why this should be the choice of the parent, because they and not the state are the ones who have the responsibility, and they and not the state should therefore have the right to decide. And so, ladies and gentlemen, because of these reasons, I beg to vote. Thank you.